Okay, welcome to a video on health in the series Living by Design. Today we're going to concentrate on the colon, the bowels, and bowel movement. Food enters the mouth, goes on into the stomach, and that sets off a whole train of reflex actions that will eventually tell the colon that food is on its way. It will contract systematically and push the food further so that to make space for the food that is coming. Now, whatever we have eaten in the sense of vitamins, minerals, our proteins, our carbohydrates, etc., it will have to be digested and absorbed. It will run along the small intestine and eventually enter the colon in a very liquid form like soup. But for that to go up into the ascending colon, it will have to be concentrated a little more, so water will be absorbed from this part as much as possible so that it can go and be pushed up like a more solid mass. With the water that's going out into the blood, we have vitamins and minerals also going out. Within the colon, we have lots of bacteria growing there. We call that the intestinal flora. These bacteria have very specific functions. There are different types of them. Some of them produce vitamins. Right? For example, there's bacteria that produce vitamin K that's essential for the clotting of blood. So they live in here, so we need to keep the colon environment very, very specific. What is good for the intestinal flora is your dairy products, and I know many people do not like to have dairy products, but that is essential for colon, for bowel health. The mass of food to move easily, to move consistently up and across here, it needs to be bound properly, and one of the binders we have is gluten, which slows down the movement a little bit so that absorption of vitamins and minerals can be added with. So as the mass of the undigested food moves up in the colon, it becomes more and more concentrated, moves along here, and when it hits the sigmoid colon, that's a part of the colon that is S-shaped. It needs to be still pliable. It needs to still have enough water in there so that it can move easily out of the body. What's helped the colon to retain water is fiber. And we have different types of fibers. Some of the fibers do not absorb water at all, and they scrape the colon's walls clean. But too much scraping can be a bad thing as well, because it can damage the walls of the colon. If we have soft fibers, it will keep the feces pliable, but we need a lot more water than that to keep the feces moving. So enough water or fluids or liquids, in whatever form we take that in, it will be of assistance in trying and helping to move the feces across, to move it down, and to prevent constipation. Now, if we have regular meals, maybe 3 times a day, and our brain is programmed to get the colon contracting at least 4 times a day. But the moment we eat, we said that now the colon will be stimulated to contract even more because we've got food coming in and it will move across. So if you eat only once a day, you are not stimulating the colon to move. More water will be taken out of the mass of the undigested food, and the mass may get a bit harder and harder, and that will cause what we call constipation. And as the food is resides or stays in the colon, the bacteria will either break it down to decay, and it will give off some gases, and some of the gases smell. And particularly if we have lots of protein with sulfur-containing amino acids, then that gas will smell even worse. But if we have an imbalance of bacteria, and there are more decaying bacteria than there are the gas-using bacteria, then we definitely will have lots of gas that will build up. We will have high degree of flatulence. And if we take fiber, increase the liquid intake, and get in enough of your liquids and allow the feces to be pliable. And there is this little saying that if it drops and it's still S-shaped, then you're in good shape. If it drops in its little balls like little nuts, then you must know there's trouble. And importantly, like I said, gluten in your diet is a good thing. Too much of it definitely is not a good thing, but having a lack of gluten may cause the feces to move a lot faster, and you have a lack of absorption of certain minerals and vitamins. And also remember, we have your abdominals. If that contracts, pushes against these, it helps as well. So regular exercise not only helps to keep the muscles against it and prevent it from slouching out, but it also helps with the movement of food in the colon. And the way we walk, for example, also, it helps movement. If you're walking correctly from the hip downwards, it also helps with movement of the feces. When the feces hit a certain spot in the colon, it triggers the mind to say, go and relieve yourself. Do not ignore that. If we start ignoring those signals, that is also what will cause constipation in the end, because then your body will forget that it wanted to go, and the feces will stay in here longer and more water will be taken out. So the moment you have that reflex triggered to go and relieve yourself, do it by all means.